All right. The May 13th, 2025 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors is hereby called to order. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. Director Atkins, I believe.
Yes. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Shtohopes people, and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community.
Thank you. Will you now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Unless you're in uniform, please remove your hat. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mitchell,
Present.
Vice President Herman,
Present.
Director Revelinsky,
Present.
Director Atkins,
Present.
Student Representative Kink,
Present.
Student Representative Kova-Rubius.
Present.
Thank you. Next comes the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, were there any changes to the agenda after it was published?
Yes, Madam Chair, there were 3 changes to the agenda. Item 6.01, administration of oath of office. The prior action statement was updated. Item 12.02, approval of the personnel report. The report was updated. And item 14.01, Associated Student Body Budget 25-26, one of the presentations was updated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the meeting being adopted by general consent? Seeing none, the meeting agenda is adopted by general consent. We have one of our 2 very exciting, actually one of 3 very exciting things happening tonight. First is our oath of office. We have Senator Robinson here to administer the oath of office to our newly appointed board member, Anna Marie Jackson Lawrence. Would you both come forward, please, and stand in front of the owl so that your backs aren't to the camera? And I think, have you ever done this before? Or? Okay. Yeah.
I, Anna Marie Jackson Lawrence, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States, and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office of Everett School District 2, Director at Large, Position 3, for an 8-month term, according to law, to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. We have some quick signatures, so we're going to pause just a moment. Maybe one of our student leaders out there will get to do something like this one day. If not for the school board, maybe a different position somewhere serving others. I know. And Anna Marie, if you would mind inviting your family to come up and let's get a picture. Sorry, your daughter's all the way in California. Yeah. Yeah, students, if you want to come up and we'll get a nice picture of our newest board member and her family. Oh, yeah, please, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. And then Ms. Lawrence, if you want to join us up here when you're ready. Jump right in. First. So next is a very exciting recognition that we have tonight, the recognition of the 2025 First Robotics World Champions. Ms. Weinberg?
Good evening, President Mitchell, Board of Directors, Superintendent Saltzman, and student representatives. It is my honor to introduce Sechin Tower, principal of Jackson High School, to share more about the extraordinary achievement of our world champion robotics team, Jack in the Bot.
Thank you, Ms. Wiseman. Good evening, President Mitchell, Board of Directors, Superintendent Saltzman, and student representatives. I am incredibly proud to share that Team 2910 Jack in the Bot represented Henry M. Jackson High School and our entire district with excellence and innovation at the 2025 First Robotics World Championship in Houston. Over 600 teams from across 30 different countries. Our students demonstrated outstanding teamwork, technical skill, and perseverance to emerge as the world champions. Their success reflects not only their dedication, but also the support of our incredible mentors, families, and school community. And now I'd like to invite our amazing students to come to the front. And head coach Steve Kneb will say a few words about this phenomenal team.
Very organized. In January, we were given a challenge to perform on a carpeted field with a brand new robot that we would devise, construct, program, and also play with throughout the season and continue development on. And of 3,700 teams in the program, ours was the cream of the crop. Ours was the best in the world. And it wasn't just what we put out onto the field. It was our preparation before every single match. It was our strategy. It was how we helped our alliance partners, because it wasn't just us. It was the 3 other teams that were on our alliance that won the world championship. And it took every member of this team to perform at this level. Our program has been continuous since the 2009 season. So this is our first championship win. FRC has existed since 1992, and it's only getting more and more challenging. So this is the best that anybody could ever have done this year. It's a good work. That's it. And the robot's name is Spectre, and there will be off-season competitions that we'll see it at in the future with new students as we get them ready for next year, because we started up again in January. So we have the students that are returning next year have that to look forward to, and the seniors have 4 years especially to be very proud of. This wasn't just what we did this year. It was what we learned from past years, so. Yeah, okay.
So if you guys want to turn sideways, so you can sort of squish in a little bit, that way you get a little bit tighter, so we can get all of you, because you are such a big team.
This might be the biggest team. And anyone else who wants to get a photo, please, you're welcome to as well.
I got the rest of them are all of these.
Scoot in there. Squishy a little bit more.
Squishy, squishy.
All right. One. Okay, just keep smiling. Keep smiling. All right,
Okay.
congratulations.
Well, and I think the thing that I've heard before, because the robotics team has come and spoken to us before, that this isn't, excuse me, how there are so many different kinds of skills that go into this team. That there are kids who are really good at engineering, really good with the computers, really good with their hands, really good with the visual perceptual, that I am so glad you guys have such a diverse team of, I would say, I see some girls and boys, and all those different strengths that you all bring. We do not expect you to stay for the whole meeting. You may leave and go and enjoy this wonderful, wonderful evening, but congratulations. And that brings us to our next section, section 8.0, the superintendent's report. Dr. Saltzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. First of all, before I begin, a beautiful sea of green, and students, you look amazing out there in the audience tonight. Great to see you. Thank you for the opportunity to share my superintendent's report this evening with the public and the board. And let me begin. We recently held 2 Let's Connect events to engage the community on the 2026 school construction bond planning process. These gatherings brought together families, staff, and community members. Across both events, we surveyed participants and gained insightful feedback. The top priorities included were this: replacing or modernizing older buildings, building new permanent building space to reduce overcrowding, building system upgrades such as new roofs and HVAC systems, keeping safety and security at the top focus for all projects. Over 90% of attendees rated the events as very informative, and many expressed appreciation for the transparency and data shared. Thank you to everyone that attended those meetings. The next steps in the bond planning process is for the committee to bring a recommendation to the superintendent and the board at the end of June. The recommendation then will be shared with the fellow school board directors at the end of August. From January through April, we held 4 strategic plan workshops with the school board. These sessions provide in-depth updates across several priority areas, ranging from PBIS, MTSS, and to early learning, safety, instructional practices, and employee development. To our public, the purpose of these workshops was to monitor our progress on the 2021 through 2026 strategic plan and ensure that alignment across all our departments. Board members had the opportunity to engage in rich dialogue with the initiative leads, helping refine focus areas and support forward momentum for our district. These workshops have now set up a strong foundation as we prepare for the strategic plan refresh that will begin in the fall. But the work begins this summer as we survey development and feedback from our district leadership and our community. We will share the survey with the community in the fall. In January 2026, we will provide an update to the board on the progress, followed by 4 study sessions focused on the development of initiatives that will be implemented for the next 5 years. We will finalize the refreshed initiatives of our strategic plan in 2026. Big thank you to our teachers. As we just wrapped up Teacher Appreciation Week, I want to take a moment to recognize the heart of our school system, our teachers. Thank you for your dedication, care, and commitment to student growth. You inspire learning and make a difference every day. We also had the opportunity to celebrate you in a unique way as we did Teacher for a Day event on April 15th, where senior staff went out to support our teachers. Academic team members joined the senior staff as we stepped into classrooms and enjoyed every minute. But I want to thank not only just our teachers, but all educators, all support people that were there with us every step of the way in those classrooms, in those cafeterias, on the maintenance field. It takes an entire system to achieve great success for our students. So let's compliment our entire district tonight as we continue the great energy and partnership that makes every day meaningful for our youngsters. That leads me into this. 9 Everett Public Schools have been recognized by the Washington School Recognition Program for their performance during the 2023-2024 school year, more than double the state average. More than double the state average. While 16% of schools statewide received recognition, 33% of our schools were honored. These recognitions reflect high achievement, student growth, or progress in closing achievement gaps. The recognized schools are as follows: Cedarwood Elementary School, Silver Firs for achievement, Emerson for closing gaps, Garfield, Jackson, Jefferson, Lowell, Sequoia, and View Ridge for growth. Each school will receive a banner from the State Board of Education in partnership with the Northwest ESD 189. We are incredibly proud of these schools, and we are incredibly proud of these students that attend these schools. And again, when those schools show success, the entire system is showing success because we all work together for the passage of great work for our students. I want to say that concludes my report this evening, and great work by the entire district, staff, community, and board to make sure that the great work is happening in the Everett Public School District. Thank you.
It's a nice recognition for everything. Director Herman, would you like to lead us off?
Yes, thank you.
For board comments, sorry, next section is board comments. Director Herman.
I just want to start board comments by saying a warm welcome to our newest board member, Director Lawrence. It is a thrill to have you here. Really wonderful also to complete our board again and have a full dais up here. So excited to be working together. And while I know it will be feeling like a fire hose of information for a while, I'm also really glad that your first meeting tonight is hearing directly from student leaders at our high schools. Their presentations each year just consistently demonstrate that our students are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but they are already leaders in our schools and communities before they even graduate from high school. So this is a terrific meeting to start with. And then the only thing I wanted to also mention is what Dr. Saltzman has already added in his report, but I was able to attend last week's Let's Connect Bond presentation at Heatherwood Middle School, which was the second of the 2 community-wide events. And I just want to thank district staff for putting that on, sharing that information in such an engaging way, and thanking the parents and community members who attended and the committee members who served that night and throughout the committee process. At that event, they were serving as note takers, assisted with table discussions, great discussions and questions shared. So I'm thrilled that we're getting that community feedback. Again, for that, all the presentation materials for the bond planning committee are on the district website. It has been a very transparent process, what you've already stated, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the committee members bring forward in their recommendation. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Revelinsky.
I would also like to say welcome to Anna Marie. I look forward to getting to know you and working with you. Congratulations. I would also like to thank Dr. Saltzman. I thought that report was fantastic. Boy, there was a lot in there. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, staff. I brought tacos one day, but I had, since we last got together, I've had the opportunity to attend several events that remind me just how deeply our community cares about education and students. I attended the Washington State PTA convention, where it was great to reconnect with PTA pals, and it's always energizing and wonderful to be with people who care so deeply about students and education. Representatives Berg and Donahue and Senator Wellman, who I've mentioned before, were also there. We've got, our allies are everywhere. I also had the pleasure of attending Multicultural Night at Monroe Elementary and Cascade High School. One thing in particular was really incredible, very impressive. The Vietnamese fan dance. There were 12 students dancing. It was beautifully choreographed and executed with precision. And finally, I was honored to be the guest of honor at the NJROTC Military Ball. The unit has earned some really big awards this year, including Distinguished Unit and Most Improved Unit, for which they're in the running nationally. As the guest of honor, I was able to make some remarks. It was fulfilling to reminisce about my days in the Navy before these high school students were even born. I told a sea story from my time serving on submarines to the students, and I got a few laughs and groans. It was a fun and joyful evening of celebration and ceremony with dinner and dancing, and it was great to spend time with our honorable, courageous, and committed students, staff, and parents. They worked so hard and accomplished much this year.
Yeah. Director Atkins.
Yes. Well, I want to start off with just congratulating and welcoming Director Lawrence to the board, and we're very excited to have you, and I'm sure you'll bring a wealth of knowledge and perspective to just our conversations. I had the opportunity to attend a talk with Superintendent Reichdahl and Senator Wellman, and just heard from them about where we are in the state of K-12 education in Washington after the legislative session, where we're going next, and so that was a really insightful conversation to get to hear. I also want to commend and thank Dr. Saltzman, Dr. Boughton, and your guys' teams for, I saw in the Friday report, the formation of an Indian Parent Committee, as well as I believe it's today that you guys are doing the interviews to hire a Title VI Indian Education Coordinator. And I'm just really excited to see this work happening. Both of these actions will go a long ways into helping support our Native students and making sure that they're successful, and just that they have the supports they need to get through our education system. So just kudos to you guys, and thank you for all the things that you and your teams are doing on this. And that's the end of my report.
And Director Jackson Lawrence, we don't expect somebody to say things all the time, but this is our time to talk about what we've done in the district. And since it's your first day, if you have any words for the community, feel free.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for welcoming me as part of the board. I'm excited to be here, and I'm honored to serve the district and to get involved and help our students and our community. So thank you.
Senior Representative Kink.
I'd like to give another shout out, another just left, to the Jackson Robotics team for all the hard work they put into the robot, and it makes me super happy to see that they could finally bring home the World Championship. And I'd also like to welcome Director Lawrence to the board. I know I'm leaving soon, but it's always great to have new perspectives, and your service will be very helpful to the district. And other than that, I'm excited to present for the Jackson ASB budget, and here with the other high schools have to show us as well.
Senior Representative Covarrubias.
Hi, I want to welcome you, Director Lawrence, for being here today, and I can't wait to work with you in the future. I also I do have an announcement to make. Sequoia finally made their first annual dance. And I do recognize some faces here, and I can't wait to see them present. Thank you.
Yeah, so congratulations for that. I also would like to welcome you, Director Jackson Lawrence. It's just great. Having 5 of us is so much better, and 7 with the students. That I attended 3 multicultural nights actually in one evening, April 23rd, and just had wonderful time. All 3 different schools were different. Emerson, then Forest View, and then Tambark. So I just started north and went south, and luckily Emerson started at 5:30 and Forest and Tambark started at 6:30, so I could make it work. But I had a wonderful conversation with a 2nd grader at Emerson. I learned a lot about him and his mom's experiences here as they're immigrants, and then he asked me who I was. And so I told him that I'm on the school board, and I asked him if he knows what voting is. And he said, yeah, we've done it in class. And I said, well, I told him, the citizens vote for me like his mom and his grandma, and I'm accountable to the community to make sure that he learns. And if he doesn't learn, then it's sort of on me and us if that happens. And then I looked at his mom and I said, does he understand what I'm saying? Did I say that okay? And she's like, oh yeah, no, he's really smart, he got it. And so that was really cool, that trying to figure out how to tell a kid what I do was really interesting. And then of the 3, Emerson really was the biggest. And speaking to Principal Young, that she set it up several years ago as a potluck. To see such a diverse community and one that is of such high poverty, have families bringing in so much food. I was just in awe, and it was absolutely so delicious. But I mean, the food just kept coming as I was leaving. And so I said, just go right to the kitchen. There's not enough room on the counters. Just go. And then at Tambark, a family from Lebanon, but she wrote my name in Arabic. And I don't know which direction it goes, so I apologize, but I thought it was really cool that she took the time to do that. And she's on our community member on our diversity and inclusion committee, and just very, very thankful to be here at the schools. So that was my report. So thank you. And that takes us on to section 10.0, public comment. Dr. Saltzman, are there any requests for public comment this evening?
There's none at this time, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. That moves us on to section 10.0, legislative updates. Director Rovolinski?
Okay. The legislative session ended on April 28th with successful passage of the budget through the House and Senate. The governor, as of, I think I wrote this on Sunday, the governor hasn't signed it yet into law, but is expected to before May 21st. There were both good and bad things, and I'm going to start with the bad news. The bad news was there were changes to OSPI's grant structures beginning in 2026 that could result in the loss of approximately $1.9 million in future funding, including support for homeless students and funding for expansion of transition to kindergarten was not included, effectively freezing enrollment in the near term, which is painful. But there's a lot of good news too. Special education, we changed from tiered excess cost multipliers to a single multiplier, reduced the application threshold for safety net funding, and we also extended service to students with disabilities through the school year that they turn 22 years old. This should result in about $3.1 million of additional funding for Everett starting next year. On MSOC, there was an increase in the per student material supplies and operating cost allocation that should result in about $850K of additional funding for EPS annually, and increases to the per student levy lid to just over $5,000 per student by 2031 will result in about $3.3 million in additional funding next year, and can increase further in the outer years, depending on the outcome of our next levy. Also, we have more flexibility with the types of student transportation vehicles rather than just our standard yellow buses, which is exciting. In conclusion, The legislature did a great job for students, providing nearly $2.5 billion in funding increases for this budget. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to the legislators for getting all of this done. I've heard a lot about the late nights in Olympia this session. They've delivered additional funding for all of Washington students and nearly $5.5 million for our youngsters here in Everett Public Schools. So that's it.
Thank you so much. And also for your role in this. And so we'll talk before our next meetings, is there just no report or do we still have things to say? So thank you. That takes us on to section 12.0, the consent agenda. Dr. Saltzman, have you received any questions about the consent agenda item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received no questions regarding items on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. First, does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Seeing none, is there any objection to the adoption of the consent agenda by general consent? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by general consent. That takes us to section 13.0, strategic progress monitoring, and there is none for this meeting, which takes us to section 14.0, information and discussion. This is the Associated Student Body Budget 25-26, and when Director Herman said this is a great evening for Director Jackson Lawrence to be with us tonight, she wasn't kidding. This is our favorite night of the year. And so, Ms. Truss, if you would like to introduce the students.
Thank you, Board of Directors and Dr. Saltzman. I pulled up the wrong file, apologies. So, as you mentioned, President Mitchell, tonight is one of many people's favorite nights. It's actually one of my favorite nights where we get to see our students at our high schools present on their ASB budgets. In tonight's agenda items includes our middle school budgets as well, details related to that. But the high schools put together a presentation about how they build their budget, the activity in their budget, and the activities for the year, and really representing what the work that they do is part of this work. I want to thank just all the people involved in this. It includes their assistant principals that oversee their activities, their advisors, budget teams, as well as the students and staff at the school to help put this all the information together and to build these budgets. And then tonight we will be starting with Sequoia High School, and I'm going to have Marika Haynes come and introduce the students of their ASB group. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marika. I'm the ASB advisor at Sequoia High School, and I've had the really awesome pleasure of getting to work with these incredible humans this year. So we have 5 of our executives here. And as Vanessa pointed out already, we had a pretty banner year, and there's been 32 kids that have gone through the leadership program this year, which is pretty awesome. So with that, I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, good evening, you guys. I'm Kaylee, and I'm Sequoia's ASB president.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and I'm the ASB vice president.
Hi, I'm Willa May, and I'm ASB secretary.
Hi, I'm Genevieve, and I'm senior class president.
Hi, I'm Antoine, and I'm a senior ASB treasurer, and I'm here to get you guys started. So, with that said, today we're going over the 2025-26 ASB budget, and we're going over revenues, expenditures, revenue and expenditure breakdowns, and fund balance comparisons, and also the budget development, ASB budget process, revenue distribution, and our ASB snapshot. And also, we're going over questions at the end. So, this is our first, we're getting started with our revenues. And since we overspent this year on a lot of resources, we're expecting our revenue to be higher because we can then use those resources for lots of other activities and club activities and just club funding, and which would then increase our revenue and expenditure usage because it is all getting used up. And we're expecting more money into our general account so we can then distribute it into our clubs, so then we can have more budget, so we can have more activities and just more event planning and all of that. So our clubs can be great and then just have a lot more stuff to do. And since we have more available resources, then we can use them into the clubs and spend all our money there. And then here's Genevieve speaking on the next slide.
So last year, most of our percentage of spending went towards our general student body, and this year we were able to balance out our percentages so we could, so the clubs could get more money and use it on whatever they need to use it on. And then now I'm going to talk about how our budget was developed and our process for our revenue distribution. Our executive officers meet and review our account balances and examine them and the transactions from this year and then compare them to last year's. And then we still consider what is still coming up within the year. We review the ASB laws and guidelines and plan for spending revenues on a variety of the student activities. Each club meets with their advisors and members to plan for the next year, and clubs give their budgets to the ASB treasurer, and the plans are reviewed by executives and advisors. We haven't had any budget for ASB cards because we feel ASB cards are a barrier to our students for participating in school-ed activities, so we don't have those. We don't have a budget for our beverage machines either because those are out of commission. We were able to set our first budget for dances because we were able to accomplish our first silent disco. And then we have a higher budget for the Spring Bazaar because we had a lot better revenue and an outcome, so we hope to increase that revenue next year, and then all of the other things that we use for activities. And then another distribution is from our Spring Bazaar, which is organized by our ASB. The money that is raised gets split in between the clubs that participated, and after agreement on after expenses, most of the money goes towards our yearbooks, so then they're free for all students. And then every new club that we vote in gets $100 for starter money, so then they can start with their activities. And then I will send this over to our ASB president.
Hey, as you can see on this little chart in front of you, it shows our major fundraising events, our club events and activities, our community service projects, our points of pride, and some of our suggestions for the future. At Sequoia, we believe that students should come and feel welcome, and they should feel like it's an open space where they feel accepted and self-confident and empowered and safe. And in doing that, we try to remove any economic barriers. Like Genevieve said, we don't have ASB cards because that puts a little barrier in students participating in all the events. We try and value everyone and address stigmas, and in the outer circle, it shows all the activities we do, and in things like theme weeks, we remove economic barriers by not charging for the activities and valuing everyone. Every single birthday that comes up, we give them a birthday bag and a little pin so that we are acknowledging them. And then in the future, we plan on expanding our social media and our signage to address some of the stigmas around Sequoia. So I'm going to send it over to my never mind, I'm going to talk about this one. These two are our two major fundraisers. We have our Spring Bazaar, like she talked about. that covers our yearbooks, where a student made ceramics and plants and small crafts, and food is sold, and people from the community come in and they get to enjoy it. And then, as you can see in that picture right there, we have Stryker. He had his first ever fundraiser, and students spent lots of time hand painting all those bags, and we sold them in hopes to fundraise for our disco party. So now I'm gonna send it over to my vice president.
Hello. I would like to talk about our clubs that we have today. Starting off the year, we had Art Club, Sustainability, and GSA. The new clubs we started this year was Dungeons and Dragons and Writing Club. We decided to reactivate Tiger's leadership, which is Port Gardner's leadership, in order to combine the leaderships and have more ideas of Sequoia as a whole. And starting at Sequoia 2 years ago, there was not no clubs, and so this is a lot of growth, having an activity basically every day for lunch and being able to welcome these students into our clubs. And clubs are free, so it's welcome to everybody at Sequoia. And then another big thing is giving back to our community that pours into us so much. And a way we were able to do that is Give Back Week, which is we were able to assess teachers and have a teacher assistant day every day of the week for that week. And one activity was parking lot cleanup, and we were able to make blankets and hygiene bags and send them off to the Volunteers of America and really pour into that community. And another big thing this year we tried to include was Port Gardner in goal and make it inclusive for everybody. And our next community service help is June 7th, and that's helping with Healthy Heart and at the Funko Field. I'm gonna send it back to Kaylee, our president.
Here we have our main points of pride. In the top corner, we have our memory wall that is a collage of all the different posters for events that we've made into one, and then you can see staff helping with some surprises for students. We've had theme weeks like Tim Burton Week, where every day throughout the week, students dressed up like different Tim Burton movies, and even if you weren't able to dress up, there were still events that they could participate in that didn't cost anything, so you were still able to have fun and maybe make something to help dress up for the week. For Give Back Week, like she said, we just wanted to pour back into the community that gives so much to us. So we did our TA for the day. We had this give back tree where students were able to pull off a giving hand, helping hand for, and it had the classroom that you were sent to TA. For Winter Wishes, that was the opposite. It was the community giving back to us. Students were able to fill out a wish, and all wishes were granted by some very generous members of the community. For Throwback Week, we brought it all the way back to elementary school, and we did things like a book fair that we included Port Gardner in. We had things like dress like a teacher, dress like your elementary school self, dress like your future self or your future career. And then there were, like I said, many activities throughout that week. And then Decades Week, we brought it back even further, and we dressed from the 60s to the 2000s leading up to our school dance. And then one more big event that I believe happened after this was we had our very first fashion show that we put together. So that was another fun event we got to do. And I'm gonna hand it over now.
Some more points of pride was our first ever annual silent disco party. And the disco party was 4 rooms and 4 different sensory experiences. So we had a loud music room, we had a D&D room, which they spent 3 good hours on their campaign, and we had a game room, and then the silent headphone room, obviously, to really accommodate any sensory needs or anything our student body needed. And to make it accessible and free for the students of Sequoia, we were granted the DEI grant, and we're very thankful for that. And to wrap it all up, as a community, our nutrition students were able to use their class to cook for our dance. And some more of points of pride, I'll pass on to Willa May.
We do onboarding panels for new students each month, and in those onboarding panels, we let students talk to the students that have been at Sequoia, and we answer any of their questions that they may want to know about what we do, what we don't like, what we do like, and more stuff like that. And we love to increase peer input with the dynamic of Senate meetings, which we have every first Thursday of each term. And then our suggestions for the future are to continue expanding leadership opportunities for our peers through input in clubs, develop more effective ways to communicate events to peers and staff, and increase connection to our community. And we thank you for all your time and support. Do you guys have any questions?
Are there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Director Herman.
First of all, well done. I always love hearing all of the events and programs and activities that are going on in our high schools, and especially Sequoia. I was curious about, so starting 2 new clubs this year, Dungeons and Dragons and the Writing Club, so 2 brand new clubs. Could you just describe what is the process? How did those get started?
Keely's gonna.
So basically, anytime a student wants to make a club, they just have to get a form and have it basically write out what their club will be about, the things they need, and then a teacher has to sign it, and then one of the executives on ASB has to sign it, and then I believe the principal also has to sign it, and then the executives make a vote, and usually we don't have any reasons to not let them have their club, and we vote and they have their club. And then from our fundraisers, they'll get $100 to use for whatever they want for their club.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Obadlinski.
Great work on the presentation, and on the budget you've developed. I appreciate seeing that revenue, you're expecting revenue to grow 89%, which is really phenomenal. And I also appreciate that that will come through as even more student engagement. And I also appreciate the work that you're planning to do to, engage with students in the school and in the community. A great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? I just want to say each of our schools has a very, very different student body and culture. And the one thing I've appreciated about Sequoia through all the years is inclusion is always your focus. And it's just really, really appreciated that as you guys stay, you'll see much larger budgets. But there are different communities and different communities of students, and so they're different. And your difference definitely was seen tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Okay,
you.
No, we were just asked if we want a picture with each school. So Sequoia, can you guys come back up here? We're going to get a picture with all of you really quick. Advisors too, please. And advisor, principal, come on.
Great job. Well done.
Congratulations. High school students are so tall, so. Usually this elevation gets us good. Here, I'll stand in between. Don't get too close, I can see my head. There we go. Get elementary school kids in here and they're really short.
I get to work on my technical sharing skills. All right. Well, thank you, Sequoia. You did a wonderful job, and we really appreciate it. Tonight, we'll bring up Kelly Rogers, who is the student advisor for Cascade High School.
Hello, Kelly Rogers, advisor at Cascade High School. I'm proud to present some awesome student leaders that are going to present their budget and share some of the awesome things that they're doing at Cascade. We have Gabriel Doolin, who's our current ASB president, Adriana Tegeg, who's our incoming president. Our current treasurer is unfortunately ill today, but we have Fiza Gasanova, who's our incoming treasurer.
The first thing I wanted to say was congratulations to Director Lawrence for being placed on the board. And I also wanted to say congratulations to Jackson. I know the robotics team is not here, but their success definitely represents everyone in the school district, so it should definitely be recognized. Okay. Now, today we'll be going over our ASB budget and our budget development process and our ASB snapshot, so things that we were prideful about for this school year. Now, starting with our ASB budget. First, here are revenues for the 25-26 budget year. We're starting with a total beginning fund balance of $251,045. And our total projected revenues are $815,325, bringing our total available resources to $1,066,370. We are predicting a decrease in revenue for our general student body account. This is mainly because our two biggest income sources, our dances and our ASB cards, are continuously bringing in less revenue every year. But on the bright side, in our club accounts, we are proud to say that we've introduced 6 new clubs this year, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. But that's why you see an increase in club revenue. We're also projecting an increase in non-ASB funds. This includes donations from our annual food drive. And since we've seen more monetary donations this year compared to last year, we budgeted for that increase. Now, let's talk about our expenditures for this next school year. Again, we're working with $1,066,370 in available resources, and we're budgeting about $887,200 in total expenditures. So that leaves us with an ending fund balance of $179,170. We expect less spending in our general student body accounts compared to this year. This directly ties to the lower revenue we're predicting from our ASB cards and our dances, so we plan to spend less. Now, for our athletics and our clubs, we are expecting an increase in spending. This is because in our advisor and coach training, we ask every club and sport to build capacity to spend for the next year, and their budgets reflect that flexibility. But when it comes to our graduating class accounts, we're projecting less activity than usual. This is due to our junior class, who traditionally runs our junior prom. They determined that it would not be profitable to run. So this is why the class spending will overall be lower. Now, here's a breakdown of our revenues pie chart. We have our general student body at 42%, our clubs at 37%, and our athletics at 16%, non-ASB funds 3%, and our graduating classes at 2%. Our general student body account brings in the largest portion. This includes things like ASB cards, dances, and capacity for big trips. Clubs are next, and most of that revenue comes from their own individual fundraising. And now our breakdown of expenditures. Our general student body is 40%, our clubs are 35%, our athletics are 20%, and our non-ASB funds are 4%, with our graduating classes being the small 1%. You'll notice we also anticipate a difference between athletics revenue and spending, since we transfer general student body funds to athletics to help cover things like uniforms and equipment and other major purchases. Now Now I'll be passing it on to FISA.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be now looking at the fund balance comparison. So for our 25-26 fund balance, ending fund balance, we estimated just about under $180,000. You'll notice some big differences in our estimated actuals for this current year in our 25-26 budget and our general student body account. When we built our budgets last year, we anticipated that we would spend a significant amount of reserves, but we didn't need to do that. So for our 25-26 budget, we anticipated to have about $100,000. $40,000 is from ASB reserves, and $50,000 is from yearbook to cover the cost of the yearbook program. So now for our budget development. At first, we hold training meetings for coaches, captains, officers, and advisors to make their budget. They then bring this back to their teams or sports and put them together. After we collect their budget forms, our current and incoming president and treasurers hold a meeting to allocate the ASB funds. We then present the proposed budget to officers and ASB class to gather any feedback. Finally, we have the Senate and Student Council review the budget and give their approval. For our revenue distribution for the year 25-26, we estimated we would bring in a total of $35,000. $25,000 is from ASB and ID cards, $3,500 is from vending machines, and $6,500 is from dances. You will notice a decrease in revenue because we look closely at our actual numbers from this year to more accurately estimate our numbers for next year. We continue to sell a similar number of ASB and ID cards as in previous years, but due to House Bill 1660, we are bringing in less revenue. For our vending machines, we changed vendors in the middle of last year, and now we can more accurately predict our revenues. In dances, while we continue to sell more tickets every year and have more students attending them, we are bringing in less money, again due to House Bill 1660. So now for our revenue distribution. How do we decide where our money goes? We divide this into club contributions, athletic contributions, and general student body. We look over clubs and sports requests that decide when we can afford and try to keep fair between clubs and sports. For clubs, we set aside funds to help with competition costs, including supplies and travel. For athletics, we set aside funds for uniforms on a cycle and equipment required for competition. And for the general student body, we set aside funds for community building events. Specifically, even though Tolo does not make a profit, we set aside money to help the dance continue, to give our students a more full high school experience. I will now be passing it off to Gia with the ASB snapshots.
To start, here are some of our fundraising events. So a bulk of our revenue comes from ASB cards. However, as Gabe said, they don't cover all of the activities and events that we put on at Cascade. So we do rely on clubs and sports to fundraise. They do cover basic necessities, however, we still rely on them. Some of the more successful fundraisers include selling tangible items like wreaths, popcorn, and car wash tickets, making their own creative fundraisers, and working with our boosters by working concessions at the Angel of the Winds Arena. A fundraiser that stood out to me this year was our Color Guard's recent fundraiser called Calendar Online Donations. On the picture on the left, it shows the calendar that they use. This is their fundraiser, where donators can pick a date on the calendar, and that date represents the amount of money that they'll be donating. They ended up raising $5,000, and we're so proud of them because that's a lot of money for a new fundraiser that they just created this year, and it will likely remain in their program for many years to come. Cascade students are highly involved in clubs, and we've gotten a lot more club participation in new clubs this year, including Asian Student Union, Muslim Student Union, Computer Science, and Hiking Club. These are all inclusive clubs that are open to all students to join. What ASB does to promote these clubs and better provide for them is giving them the opportunity to sell food and drinks at our tailgate, our homecoming tailgate in Tolo Dance. This was a really successful change, and we'll likely be doing it for years to come. Our clubs also have the chance to put on their own events. For example, ASB has been putting on Multicultural Night for many years. However, this year, our Latino club took initiative and put on Multicultural Night, and it went really well. Our Rock and Roll Club, which is a new club this year, they put on 2 concerts and a halftime show, which were both free to go to, and they also went really well. To increase pride at school, we've been working a lot on involvement during PEP assemblies. So this is involvement with staff and students. In the picture on the left, it shows some of our staff dressed as Elphaba from Wicked, and they all got to sing their own Wicked riff, and students got to vote for which one was the best. It also shows our ASB treasurer who has strep throat right now, but he's okay. This was a big hit with the freshmen. We've also seen a lot more active freshmen running for ASB positions, which is really good. To make our campus more prideful is to make it look more welcoming. And what we've done with our parking money this year is replace our Bruin garage, which is on the picture on the right. This garage used to be a blank piece of metal with dents and stains, and now it's beautifully painted. We've also replaced our marquee board above the cafeteria, as well as some banners. We've also optimized our Senate meetings. So we used to have one conjoined meeting with athletics and clubs, which wasn't really productive, but this year we've decided to split it into separate meetings, and we got to work with athletics with culture and clubs with anything that they needed. And this change went so well that we're looking to change it in the Constitution. Gabe will continue with points of pride.
Now for some additional points of pride. Yearbook and Tyro, our literary magazines, spend time and effort every year and really focus on recognizing our hidden communities at Cascade. Our yearbook has won multiple awards, one of them being the Gallery of Excellence, which is given to top 3% of yearbooks in the nation. Another one of our points of pride is the amount of kids we send to state every year. As an ASB, one of the things we focused on was providing money to send these kids to state so they don't pay for all of it out of pocket. And also because as an ASB, we're extremely proud to have diversity in our success, with not just sports going to state, but clubs as well. This year we had actually 11 wrestlers, bowling, cheer, choir, cross country, TSA, robotics, DECA, HOSA, and our math team, with more to come. But what we are most proud of is how much our community has grown. This year, our sports and clubs really focused on outreach and connecting with our community. Our softball team had a skills clinic specifically to connect with kids and bring them into the Bruinhood. Our color guard connected with our incoming students early and over the summer, and doing this increased their membership by 50% and gave them a JV for the first time. Our baseball and softball team also got to have a JV for the first time in 4 years. And one of our clubs, HOSA, was able to increase their membership by 68%. Our student body, our advisors, our coaches, our leaders all recognize the need for connection and open their communities to make life good in the Bruinhood. Now, this slide really shows how Cascade has made an impact and changed people's lives. As a class officer, the expectation for your job is to set up events and fundraisers to raise money for your class. So just the idea of our junior class officers setting up a dress drive, not for the purpose of raising money, but to serve and give to others and going beyond what they were expected to do, is truly inspiring. This has shown to be a consistent theme to me throughout my time at Cascade. Like our clubs running Fun Fest and making the Halloween experience more enjoyable for kids, or our Club HOSA hosting 2 blood drives every year, mainly organized by students. And of course, our food drive, where our students and even our alumni come together every year and really focus on giving back to the community. This year, we collected 55,000 cans, $25,000, and 2,000 gifts. But bigger than that, 2,000 of our cans came from Evergreen Middle School, as we are continuously growing our community. Now, for suggestions for the future from our current ASB to our new, here are some of the things that we've thought about. Our freshman involvement has improved a lot, but still needs work. We specifically provided funds to send our new link crew advisors to a training to reform and improve the club, so we can have more people focused on welcoming freshmen to the Bruinhood. This year, we focused a lot on presenting multiple opportunities for feedback through our student council meetings, surveys, and school culture meetings. We have worked a lot on recognizing what we need to improve on, but now we're shifting gears towards building on it, applying it to our events so we can better serve our student body. This idea of servant leadership or serving someone else is what our ASB is built on and one of the first things that we're taught when we join leadership. Our goal is to constantly ask ourselves the question, how can we better serve our student body? Sometimes our events require a big ask from our student body. For example, some of our spirit days were a little crazy. We had Mustache Day, Beach Day, and Jersey Day. So to remedy this ask, we bought and provided mustaches for free, gave out leis at our Beach Day assembly, and gave out jerseys for $1. Now lastly, looking back at this year, we didn't get to do everything we wanted to do, but when you aim to be the best, if you miss, you're still pretty good. And I definitely believe that's how we should view this year. I'm extremely grateful to have had the opportunity to work with these officers, the staff as well, and the students. And I'm extremely proud of everyone for doing what they did to serve the person next to them. Now, thank you for your time. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's the first time I've heard Bruinhood.
Yeah.
And it's kind of catchy. So are there any questions or comments?
I'll go.
Yes, please.
Please, I'm looking forward to your question, Mr. Revelinski.
As a Cascade dad.
That's right, yeah. Thank you. Well, it's good to see you guys. I know I feel like I see you all the time. One thing, well, first of all, great job. I mean, that was really comprehensive. You answered all my questions as we were going through it. Really incredible. Talking about why there's decline in spend on the general student body. And really, it's clear you put in a ton of work on that. Very well polished. I do have one little comment, though. Give you a little bit of a teaching moment. Not in a bad way, though. You mentioned that ASB card sales are declining. And so you've budgeted less for that this year. Declining revenues are common in business, nonprofits, all kinds of organizations struggle with that every day, every year. I would maybe recommend to you, I wrote my notes, how did I put this? You may consider over the course of the next year, before you come back to budget again, is how do you increase the value of the ASB card in the mind of the students? And how do you kind of reach a little bit of a critical mass on making that something that the students really, really want? And then at the same time, you may also consider whether they're priced appropriately. Just something to think about, but just a couple things I thought about as you were going through your excellent presentation.
Can I respond?
Yes, yeah, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me
This
I'm
is where we need to learn.
So to respond to that, we actually had a meeting about that 2 weeks ago, I think, when we were looking at our gap opportunity form. And we were trying to figure out how we can make it more appealing to students to get an ASB card. And also with House Bill 1660, we also have a lot of students who don't know about it and don't know that they can also get an ASB card for free, so we can have more people coming to our events. And I think the other thing you said, I just forgot, but we've definitely been, huh?
It's recorded.
Oh, okay, I'll be able to go back and I'll answer you when I see you again. But those are all definitely things that we've been thinking about, definitely with Gia's help and her direction. Those are some of the things that we talked about, we've been trying to work on. So thank you.
Yeah, Director Herman.
Also compliments, really, really great presentation and a lot of great work at the school. We heard a few times about House Bill 1660. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about that and how it's impacted you in ASB this year.
So with House Bill 1660, obviously, it provides for students to get lunch for free, get an ASB card for free, and for them to come to some of our events for free, which is really good, and it really improves inclusion and really gives them the ability to show up with us and stand with us. It has impacted our revenue, so we don't make as much as we did originally, as almost 70% of our student body applies for House Bill 1660. But for example, our dances, the amount of students that we have coming has increased since that, which has been really good for us, which is really our goal this year, was trying to bring as many people as possible to enjoy the Bruin experience, to really build community throughout our school, if that answered your question properly.
Well, I think that that's an important thing, is because of the, the diversity of your school, that, I know how our budget things are, but it is sort of the, how many students are you reaching is as important as how much money you're spending. And so it is sort of, what is the impact of what you're doing? It's so powerful. Is there any other comments? Because I didn't want to speak out of turn. Okay, so I think it's a great job, and something that you've heard from us up here for year after year after year is please spend down your ending fund balance. And you guys have definitely done that. You've done that through some unintended loss of revenue, but living with that, and then having your clubs and everybody earn back every year, because sort of the students who earn it should use it, and you and another school in our district who is in this room like to hold on to it for the future. And so, but it is a really great work spending that down, even if some of it was unintended, and then, working within your means every school year. Just really, really, really strong work and great presentation.
I say one more thing.
Yeah, of course. No, this is great.
For us as an ASB, we're just a representation of our entire student body. And so the characteristics and the qualities that we show is just a representation of everybody else at our school, and even what we learned from you guys in the school district. So I thought that was important to mention.
Well, great. Well, thank you. Now we're going to invite your advisor to come up, and if anybody else from Cascade would like to be in our picture, please. Please come up. In the center, in the center. They got really squishy. Come on, scooch in. They like each other.
Well done.
And I actually appreciate that back and forth a little bit, because I've heard of a new term called reverse mentorship. It's how does somebody of my age and generation actually learn from somebody of a different age and generation, and not always be the teacher and the mentor, but have somebody maybe mentor me. So that was great. Next, please.
Great job, Cascade High School. You did excellent. Next, we will be having Jason Gaddick, the ASB advisor for Jackson High School, introduce Jackson High School's ASB team.
Good evening, President Mitchell, board members, Superintendent Saltzman, student representatives, one of who was moved. I am Jason Gaddick, as was just mentioned. I'm the ASB advisor and activities coordinator at Henry M. Jackson High School. And I have the privilege of introducing our students who will be presenting our budget for next year to you. Before I do that, on behalf of all of the schools and all of the students who are presenting and the students that we serve every day, I just want to thank you all for your work and for your support of all that we do in our schools. We certainly couldn't do any of the things that we do without your continued support of us. So thank you for that. I have with me tonight two of our current ASB officers and two of our incoming ASB officers. I have our president, Will Kink, our incoming president, Tavisha Chawla, our current treasurer, Archit Goyal, and our incoming treasurer, Min Sang Kim. And so with that, I'm going to pass it off to them.
All right, long time no see. How's it going, everyone? My name's Will Kink, and I'm the exec pres of Jackson High School. And here's our overview for what we will be presenting today. First, we're going to start off with our revenues, expenditures, the breakdown of each, and the fund balance comparison for the 2025-26 school year. Then we'll go into our budget development of our budgeting process and how we distribute our revenue. And then finally, we'll end with our ASB snapshot and give you guys a sneak peek into what we do at Jackson and how we benefit the student body.
Moving on to the breakdown of our ASB budget of 2025-2026 year. So starting off with our revenues, our beginning fund balance of 2025-2026 is $230,627, and then our revenues for this year $1,279,241 to make up of a total available resources of $1,500,986. And then you see in this breakdown that we have from last year's budget to this year's budget, or current year's budget to next year's budget. It's very similar, with our clubs making up a majority of our budget, and then our athletics following, and then our general student body being next. Moving on to expenditures, we have a similar trend in both of them, with our total available resources being 1.5 million, and then our total expenditures being just under 1.27 million. And that leaves us with around 240,000, which is similar to as our previous years. And then our breakdowns for each expenditure is similar to our revenues as before. Now going on to a breakdown of our revenues, we see that clubs make 62.5% of our revenues. The athletics make 22.1%. The general student body makes 13.5%, and then the 1.9% is our graduating classes, and then our non-ASB funds. This is the majority of our revenues come from our clubs, because we have a huge variety of clubs. We have over 70 clubs in our school, which creates a very inclusive environment, allowing every person to be represented in a club that they want, and and it's very easy to find a club that you feel represented in. Moving on to expenditures, we have a very similar breakdown just as before, with our clubs being 61.9% of our expenditures, the athletics being 23.5%, and then our general student body being 11.8%. And then the remaining 2.8% is our graduating class and then non-ASB funds. Moving on to fund balance comparison, we see that overall we have $240,613 predicted for remaining for our 2025 to 2026 school year. So we expect this because as a school, we want to have around $250,000 to $300,000 remaining in our balance, because we see that that is a good amount to have while still spending for our school, but still remaining for future use. Now I'll be giving it off to our future treasurer, Minsang.
So diving straight down into the budget development and the ASB process. So each club, sport, and activity submit a budget plan by March that we as ASB go through and make sure that the data is feasible and that all the numbers add up. And then after all the ASB officers has reviewed these budget plan, we finalize it and send it off to the assistant principals and the ASB secretary to finalize and review. And if there are any problems regarding or questions regarding the budget, they can contact ASB to clarify any of them. So diving straight into the revenue distribution, I'll spotlight ASB and ID cards because we have a great amount of students that want to enjoy clubs and events, and we highly incentivize students to do so. And we do so by advising students to purchase the ASB card to participate in different sports and some different activities. Also, two of the major changes we made this year is that we want to reduce the price of homecoming so that it's more of an accessible event that focuses more on social gathering. And additionally, we want to focus up the prices of the yearbook so that we make the environment of creating the yearbook more sustainable, because we already know that the yearbook is a sustainable tool for preserving memories. So we want to keep an ongoing process of the yearbooks. So diving straight into the revenue distribution, it's pretty similar to how the ASB process works. So clubs, sports, and activities submit a form for a general reserve transfer proposal by contacting the ASB secretary. And after scheduling a meeting date, they come into ASB to present the proposal to all of ASB. The ASB then discusses about this and talks about the pros and cons and whether to approve, decline, or edit the proposal. And the final decision is reported by the ASB treasurer and secretary. And now I'll hand it off to Will.
All right, now it's time for our ASB snapshot. We'll be going over our major fundraising events, club events and activities, community service projects, our ASB points of pride, as well as suggestions for the future. Starting things off with our major fundraising events. And we have homecoming, and I know Minsing just said that we don't see this as a way of making money, but we're still listing it as a fundraiser because in a way it's cyclical that we're raising funds to support our own dance. We keep the ticket prices very low, so there's no barrier to entry, and it's another very accessible event for students to come to. And this is one of my favorite nights of the year. We host it in our own school. We have a DJ, and I think ever since I've been in Jackson, the numbers of attendance have only gone up. And the way we advertise this and market it makes it a super welcoming environment to get everyone from the school to come and celebrate together. And then some of our other fundraisers, which personally I don't see as fundraisers, even though they do make thousands of dollars per event. I see them more as bonding events. For example, Jackson's Got Volleyball is our annual volleyball tournament, where students can make their own teams and compete against other students from Jackson to see who will take home the golden volleyball. And this is a great way of bringing people together and making some fun friendships while setting and spiking at the net. And then Jackson's Got Talent is another one of our spring fundraising and student spirit events. We have everyone from Jackson come highlight their talents and have a chance to show out at the talent show. And we usually have some amazing singing and dancing and honestly everything you can think of at the talent show. And then the Bob Ross Painting Night. This is one I really like because it involves the community. We reach out to elementary schools that feed into Jackson. And they come in, we play a Bob Ross video, and they practice their painting skills and also maybe have a relaxing evening listening to Bob Ross' soothing voice. And then we also host a babysitting night. And this also is kind of really community-based because we reach out to feeder schools and elementaries. So we usually do it near the holiday times or any busy parts of the year where parents can drop off their students to the school, and our leaders will take care of them and give the kids a fun babysitting night at Jackson. All right, next up, club events and activities. And piggybacking on what Archie said, we have over 70 clubs, and as far as we're concerned, this is one of the, we have some of the most clubs at any high school in the state, if not the most. And I think this is one of the strong points of Jackson because everyone at the school can find their little niche or pocket or group of people to fit into. We have things from whether it's a cultural club, something for sports outside of sports, future educational clubs, or just a hobby you want to hang out with people. You can always find your group of people, and that's something I myself have done during my years at Jackson. I found my people in ASB and robotics and have had a great time here. And beyond just the sheer number of clubs, they're also super involved. For example, our club fair, Oktoberfest, they can set up booths. And the club fair is just a way of kind of getting the word out so Jackson students can join the clubs. And at Oktoberfest, like I said, community, this feeder schools and elementaries come to Jackson for some fun trick-or-treating and games hosted by our own clubs. And the clubs also are all featured in the homecoming parade, as you can see in the top right. This year we had to do it in the school hallway because it was rainy, but they still showed out, and it was some great building up some hype for the homecoming dance. And clubs also at our school have lots of leadership conferences, which is funded by the budget we just showed you. And this is a great opportunity for those clubs. You can see in the bottom left, our Key Club goes to lots of conferences so they can practice their own leadership skills to bring back to the school. And yeah. All right, next up, community service projects. Now, here I really want to highlight the word community because these aren't just things we do within the school. For example, like Henry the Giving Snowman and the Jackson Food Drive, we like reaching out to those feeder schools, and we encourage them to donate as much food as possible, or in the case of our winter funders, or toys, and we collect it all in our school. You can see there in the bottom right, outside the office, the floor is almost filled. That was just like half of it too. It's like filled with food. And this is great because the food isn't just given to us by the community, but it's also given out to the community. So we're really keeping things cyclical within our little Mill Creek area and developing a real community around Jackson. And then this year, we also introduced some relief fundraisers. So for example, when the very tragic hurricanes happened in Florida, we did a kind of pass the hat fundraiser at lunch, and it was amazing how many students were very eager to give their own money. And in one day, I think we raised $1,000 just by going around to lunch and asking people to donate for those hurricanes in Florida. And another one of our really fun community service projects I got to be involved with this year was the senior backpacks. You see in the middle slide there. We kind of get like well, I don't want to say kid because, well, yeah, kid-themed backpacks. And you wear those for the first 2 weeks, and then we donate them so kids who maybe can't afford backpacks can wear the ones that we rep for the first 2 weeks of school, and that's really fun for our seniors. And now I'll be passing it off to Tavisha for the last few slides.
At Jackson High School, one of our biggest strengths is school spirit, which ASB has worked hard to foster. Whether it's through our spirit weeks, pep assemblies, or packed student sections at our various sports games, we've seen incredible energy from our student body this year. Our events bring people together and give everyone a chance to be involved, leading through chants, dressing up for spirit days, or just showing up to support. These moments help build a strong, unified school culture that our ASB and our culture is very incredibly proud of. Looking ahead to next year, our focus is on expanding that sense of community even more. First, we want to continue building connections across all grade levels, not just through big events, but also in everyday moments. We've also hoping to introduce more class bonding events and things that bring each grade together and strengthen class pride. Lastly, we're excited to propose a multicultural assembly, a chance to celebrate the diverse cultures at Jackson High School and ensure that every student feels seen and valued at our school. Thank you for your time and for supporting student leadership at Jackson High School. We're happy to answer any questions you have, and we love your feedback.
Are there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Mr. Director Ovalinsky.
I just had one, and it was about, your comment about increasing revenue from yearbooks. And I guess I just wonder if the price of the yearbook goes up, will you sell more yearbooks or fewer yearbooks?
When we referenced funding going into yearbooks, I don't think this was necessarily involved with the price of the yearbook. It was also the money ASB gives to the yearbook so they can have an easier time with production.
I see.
So the price will stay relatively the same, but our yearbooks are always super high quality, so we don't have an issue with how that'll impact the sales.
Super. Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Another great presentation, and I'm looking through the list of all the clubs that exist, and it's impressive. As you said, students being able to find their group of common interest, and it means a lot. So along that, you had mentioned that there's a club fair in the fall, and it sounds like that's where I'm thinking about all the 8th graders that are really excited to be at Jackson next year and participate in these. It also got me wondering about communication channels. And do students need to have a social media account to find out about what's going on? Or what are some of the ways you use to get information out to students?
So yeah, I'm being involved with a lot of clubs. Like personally, I've found that the most common communication channel is through Remind. So that's just through your school account. So you don't really need a social media to be involved in a lot of clubs and being like, knowing what's going on in the club especially.
That is great especially for inclusion. And and I appreciate your comment that you do need a fund balance, but if you guys were to go back, I would say like 10 years ago, the fund balances were 2 or 3 times what they are now, or at least that's what it appeared, that you do bring in a lot, you spend a lot, and that's really great. But great presentation, great things, and I failed to mention it for Cascade, but all of our schools do such a great job with fundraising of the food, the toys and everything, and giving it back. And I've been at that school when my daughter was there or just visiting since she hasn't been there. You are so lucky that you have that lobby that can just be filled up and piled high and filled up and piled high and filled up and piled high. And the generosity that comes out of this school and all of our schools is just really, really amazing. So great job.
I also want to add on to what Archie said, Director Herman. In terms of like club communication and outreach, I think our school itself is also sort of like a club fair in itself. If you ever take a walk through Jackson, you'll notice the halls are pretty packed with flyers and posters from all our clubs. And on our announcements, they feature various clubs every day. So if you're worried about missing a meeting, or maybe you don't have social media or a way to connect, we do kind of shove it in kids' face of here's a club for this, here's a club for that. So people always have a really easy way to access those clubs.
Fantastic, good to hear, well done.
Yeah, and I've seen that in the hallways, like this club's meeting at this time on this day. So great job. So if you guys want to come up, and everybody from Jackson. appreciate the green ties and bows. Get to where the height isn't a problem. Yeah.
Thank you again, Jackson High School. We really appreciate your work. And our final presentation tonight is for Everett High School. So I'd like to introduce Meg Adams and Elizabeth Scott, who are the advisors for Everett High School's ASB leadership team.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Scott. I'm one of the advisors for these incredible humans behind us, and I will give it over to my co-advisor, Meg.
Hi, I'm Megan Adams, the other advisor, and just wanted to say thank you for waiting for us for last. They were very excited about this presentation. I'm going to introduce one of our students who will introduce the rest, and just a fun fact about her. Everett High is like so old. We did the math. I think it's 135 years old. And in 135 years, she's the first Fijian ASB president we've ever had, which is pretty, one small cool thing about her, and lots of things. Yeah. So, I would proudly like to introduce Deborah Vaslukiba, our ASB president of this year.
Hi, Bulavinaka. Hello. My name is Deborah Vasilakemba, and I'm the ASB president for the 2024-2025 school year. And on behalf of my team, I would like to say that it's an honor and a privilege to be standing in front of all of you today. And today I'm joined by Anthony Reyes, the 2024-2025 ASB treasurer, Sam Russell, the upcoming ASB president, and Marquise Lyons, the upcoming ASB treasurer. Today, we're going to be presenting the Everett High School ASB budget for the 2025-2026 school year and highlighting the decision-making process we have used for budgeting, as well as the club events, activities, achievements, and goals for our future Seagull community.
As an overview, we're going to discuss our planned ASB budget for the 2025-2026 school year, including revenues, expenditures, breakdowns, and our fund balance comparison. We will also talk through our budget development, revenue distribution, and our favorite part, our ASB snapshot, where we will share all of our activities and events that truly define our accomplishments of our students. And of course, we'll have time to answer as many questions as you may have at the end.
All right, as Sam mentioned, we're going to be going over the 25-26 budget, beginning with revenues, moving on to expenditures, going over a breakdown of both of our revenues and expenditures, and then finally ending with a fund balance comparison over 3 years here at Everett High. So starting off with the revenues, you'll see that our beginning fund balance, starting with this year, we started with $155,292. Adding our revenues to that, which ended up being $985,242, those two numbers added together give us our total available resources, which is the amount of money we have to spend over the course of the year, which for this year we're budgeted at $1,140,534. And for next year, we're looking to start with $234,078, make $1,021,486 to be able to spend $1,255,564.
And next year, clubs and athletics will continue to play a consistent role in generating revenue.
Next, moving on to the expenditures. As you can see, we start out with the total available resources, which for this year was $1,140,534. Our expenditures will we are expected to spend $814,292, which that number subtracted from our total available resources gives us our ending fund balance, which for this year was budgeted at $326,242. And for next year, with our total available resources of $1,255,564, spending $1,022,766, we end up ending with $232,798, which is slightly less than our ending fund balance last year.
Our projected expenditures for the 25 to 26 school year include more groups like our cheer team beginning to compete in high-level competitions and the registration costs that follow. Using the budget request form submitted to us, we were able to create this pie chart that accurately depicts how revenue is distributed at our school.
Using those same forms, we also outlined our expenditures for next year, the largest of which is our clubs at 54%, because a lot more of our clubs, much like Marquise mentioned, with cheer, NJROTC, and many more, are going to more national or state level competitions, which, as you know, can start to get very expensive. Then moving on to our athletics, we are continuing to send many teams to state, which accounts for most of our expenditures, but we also have some expenditures due to referee and official costs. At 10%, we have our activities or our general ASB fund. This is just used to fund our general student body activities. Then at 2%, we have our classes. Most of this will make up from the class of 26's prom, but it also accounts for some of the expenditures used when we're creating our fundraisers. And then finally, private money at 1% just for our annual food drive and some other charitable donations that we do throughout the year.
At the end of the 23 to 24 school year, we were left with a total ending balance of $286,894. That gave us a strong foundation heading into this year. For the current year, 24 to 25, we're projecting a slightly lower ending balance of $229,630. Looking ahead to next year, for the 25 to 26 school year, we're projecting a slightly higher ending fund balance of $232,798%. As you may have noticed, athletics is projected to make up of 58% of the total fund balance. We've also made sure that our projections align with House Bill 1660, which requires schools to reduce barriers for students to participate in extracurriculars, especially those that qualify for free and reduced lunch.
Okay, so we've talked about what the numbers mean, and now we will discuss how those decisions for those numbers were made. Before we begin discussion of our allocation process, a lot goes into the budgeting process. First, our advisors and treasurer meet with other clubs to help them build their own budget for our review, and we also provide after-school support for any clubs, sports, or groups that need help with this process. Once we have received a budget from every group on campus, our ASB team meets in a conference room for 2 separate days to get a refresher lesson on ASB law, organize these budgets, and eventually move on to our allocation process. We ask a lot of questions to guide our decision making, such as how many students does each group serve, what is their ability to fundraise, how do they contribute to our school culture, are they active, do they need a helping hand to get off the ground, and do they have a strong outside ASB account like a parent or booster group? After answering each of these questions, it helps us move forward towards an equitable decision to each group's unique situation while budgeting.
As for our revenue distribution, starting with our ASB cards, we continue to keep the capacity to sell ASB cards at around 45,000, due partially to House Bill 1660 and some of the challenges from that, but also our school community knows a lot of the benefits of having an ASB card, so many more are willing to get one. Then we keep our beverage machines at about $1,000 just to keep that capacity in case we make a lot more than we expect. Our dances and other has fluctuated the most, but is currently at $10,000 for next year's budget after looking at our actuals for the 23-24 year.
And from a financial standpoint, ASB cards are a mostly predictable and reliable source of income for ASB. They're also one of the main items that affect every student, athlete, club member, and event goer the same.
After answering each of the previous questions, we then went over each club's allocation requests. When deliberating on how much money we allocate for each special request, we looked at a few guidelines. First, we made sure that they follow the rules of CARS, for cultural, athletic, recreational, and social purposes. We also looked if an athletic team were on a uniform year. Finally, some allocation requests are awarded based on special circumstances. For example, we award money to our affinity groups on campus, such as PI Club, Latinos Unidos, and BSU to attend cultural field trips. We believe that it is important to provide our students opportunities to further their cultural understandings and make it clear that all cultural groups are valued at Everett High School.
And now it's time for our favorite part, and we hope yours as well, the ASB Snapshot. From our amazing clubs who continue to open spaces for all students to feel welcome, to our amazing girls wrestling team who plays and stay every year, the incredible things our students do inspire us to continue to uplift student voices to create a high school experience where all students feel safe and represented.
Before talking about major fundraising events, we'd first like to recognize the amazing support that Everett High School continues to receive from its community. From our generous Blue and Gold Club to our annual EHS auction, which this year made us almost $200,000 for the student body, we're so grateful to have students, alumni, and family show up year after year to support our students. Now that we've recognized that, we'll now talk about major fundraising. On campus, we give clubs and sports multiple opportunities to fundraise throughout the year. One of our biggest opportunities continues to be Homecoming Tailgate, which this year, located in the middle, included participation from Freshman Senate. It also served as a great way for new leaders to get involved early on. Another great example of how we let our clubs and sports fundraise is at our sports games. Located in the bottom right was when Latinos Unidos stepped up and fundraised at one of our basketball games. We're also very excited to continue giving our clubs the chance to showcase who they are. One way we do this already is through our annual EHS Club Fair, located in the top left and bottom right, which allows clubs to showcase who they are and what they do to new and upcoming students. We're also very proud to support student-led events, like when Black Student Union, located in the middle and bottom left, hosted their own MLK assembly, collaborating with the Pacific Islander Club. Things like this are what bring our campus together.
We believe in giving more than we take. We give to our community in forms of food safety, giftings during the holiday season, uplifting the young, and providing unifying experiences to many beyond our high school. This includes our EHS food drive, as pictured on the bottom left, having our homecoming royalty visit their past elementary schools to teach them about Everett High values, which is featured on the top right, and our HOSA's annual blood drive on the bottom left.
At Everett, our pride revolves directly around the success of our students in their various fields. For example, pictured in the top left is our girls wrestling, who had eight wrestlers who made it to state this year. As well, our Everett High Drama Club held their annual Fall Drama Fest and just finished their spring musical of Newsies. And we are so proud of our cheer team, who competed at qualifiers for the first time in many years. In addition, as seen in the upper middle, Everett's very own NJROTC had many members compete at regionals this year. And beyond that, we held our first free pickleball tournament, including a funny costume contest for all participants. We also are very proud of our DECA Business Club, who competed at the state competition. And lastly, we also hosted many entertaining events alongside our club fundraising on field day, one of which was our staff inflatables race.
Building off from last year, we've made even more progress in opening up more of our events for club participation, like Tailgate, Trunk or Treat, Winter Wonderland, and Field Day. We've established a clear system that allows any and all clubs, no matter the size, to participate in our events. Our goal moving forward is to keep building that momentum. We're working to plan more whole school events, things like dances, tailgates, and games. And honestly, the student interest speaks for itself. This year, almost 70 students applied to be a part of our leadership program, and 25 students ran for ASB. That tells us that students want to be involved, and we're happy to support that.
While we are constantly working to bridge the gap of belonging with our students, we recognize the areas in which we need to improve. We believe we should use our influence to empower other leaders to create their own events. This means including diverse voices and creating more opportunities to celebrate our valuable students. Our suggestions include hosting more events that are led by club leaders, providing and listening to the feedback of the student body through accessible forms, creating a transparent peer-to-peer training for everything ASB, and striving to improve our connections with our special education program through activities such as unified sports and other accessible events. We wish to strengthen our connections with our students across our campus, supplying them with the love and recognition they all deserve. Do you have any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, great job. Any questions or comments? Sometimes we just have to pause because it's so wonderful.
Wow, I thought that was great. I thought it was very well polished and well thought out, and I appreciate the depth of the student engagement types of activities that you're doing, and all of that showed how hard you guys have worked, not only on the budget but throughout the year. Great job. You've got big shoes to fill. I don't have any questions on the budget. I thought it was great. I thought it was fine, but I don't mind talking. So.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead.
I just need to echo for both your team, and this goes throughout the night. I am always so impressed by not only the presentations that come up that we see annually, but how much work is being done at the school level by students and their advisors, but that is a lot of great programming and celebrations and service. I loved one of the themes throughout all of the presentations, inclusion, service, giving back. And it is, as a school board member, it is such a point of pride when I just feel so much pride for what our students are doing at that level. So I just want to say a huge thank you and well done.
And great job. And I'm going to echo that a little bit, because what we do up here, we don't always see the impact we're having. And when all of you, every year when the ASBs come forward, we really get to see our impact. And because it's what you're doing, it's not what we do, it's what you're doing. And all of the students here, just like she just said, inclusion, diversity was in every single presentation. Looking out for others, servant leadership is something we should all strive for as leaders. And I hope that, as for the seniors in this room, as you go off to the next thing, this drives you, because ASB leadership is in our senators, it's in our representatives, it's in our CEOs. So many of them can track that leadership back to ASB. So just great work to you and everybody else in this room. So thank you. So come on up, and Everett High leadership too.
Great job.
Just pulling up your opening
I got something to tell them.
background. There you go. Look at me first. If you can't see me, I can't see you.
Oh.
I'm taking him.
All right, you can look at Dr. Beckley now.
I did it already.
He's next on
Yeah. Can we actually get all of the students up here? Yeah, just all the students, just to show. If you turn sideways, you can fit more people. Yeah.
Stand on this side, yeah.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Just a little bit in. Okay. All right, everybody, look here. Okay, congrats.
Great job. Because of you that we serve, so thank you. And you do not need to stay for the rest of the evening as much as you might want to. Maybe somebody's got some food for you at home. But great job, everyone. We're now going to take just let's say an 8-minute break, or is that a 7-minute break, whatever takes us to the 6:30 hour for everybody to stretch their legs and take care of anything else. So we're at recess. Not yet. Okay, welcome back. Thank you so much. And that was such a great job by our students. So that takes us on to section 15.0, unfinished business, which there's none for this meeting, which takes us to section 16.0, or new business. First, we have the elementary science K-5 curriculum adoption for first reading. Dr. Bowden.
Yes, thank you, President Mitchell, board directors, student representatives, and Dr. Salzman. That is a very difficult act to follow, all of those ASB, but I think that the Science Adoption Committee team, led by Director Andrea Cartwright, will try and do their very best to end us out on a very strong note. This is the third recommendation that we've brought to the board this year. This is our last one, which is the elementary science curriculum adoption. And I'd like to welcome to the podium Director Andrea Cartwright, who oversees the P12 Science and Engineering Department, and she will be leading us through this presentation today, and she has some of the members of her adoption team here as well to kind of testify to some of the work they've done in bringing you this recommendation. At the end of this presentation, we'll be asking for the board's approval to move it to second reading for final approval and moving forward with the adoption. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Andrea Cartwright.
Good evening, President Mitchell, board directors, Superintendent Saltzman, and student representatives. Thank you for the opportunity to share the Elementary Science Adoption Committee's instructional recommendation. The committee met from October of 2024 until this April to engage in the rigorous and comprehensive adoption process as outlined by 2311. The adoption process, like all others, is grounded in the district's strategic priorities. At the heart of our work is increasing equitable access to resources that support student learning. Of course, our work directly aligns with the priority student outcome, increased science achievement. But it's also important to note that this work helps ensure access to authentic learning and high expectations for diverse learners, as well as supports district-wide expectations for instruction in courses. The process was launched by a needs assessment. Instructional resources were last adopted for elementary school science in 2004. These resources met the needs of the prior state standards. The shift to the Next Generation Science Standards, also known as the NGSS, in 2013 created the need for new instructional resources. When the new standards were launched and adopted, curriculum had not yet been written to support achievement towards those standards. Because of this, we continued to use our previously adopted curriculum and created structures and resources to help elevate science teaching and learning. Over the last few years, curriculum for the NGSS has become more readily available. We felt confident that engaging in an adoption process now would result in the recommendation of a high-quality instructional resource. Because the work of this adoption committee was to review and recommend instructional resources to be used district-wide in 6 grade levels, it was important to have a large variety of voice and perspective on the committee to ensure that the final recommendation supported all elementary students. The committee comprised of elementary staff and district instructional facilitators, as well as representatives from special services, multilingual learner, learning and information technology services, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the professional learning department, evaluated the resources, recommended the selection of the instructional resource, and developed the implementation plan. To prepare for engaging in the adoption process, committee members were steeped in learning experiences to build and calibrate their understanding. Emphasis was placed on ensuring that committee members understood how the standards support equity and access for each student, how research best practices highlight student-centered and student-empowered learning experiences, and how intentional instructional moves support sense-making in collaborative, discourse-rich learning environments. Committee members were introduced to and trained in how to use the evaluation tools that would support reaching consensus and a recommendation for an instructional resource. Policy 2311P appendices were used to evaluate the instructional resources, as well as the educators evaluating the quality of instructional products rubric, also known as the EQUIP rubric, for science. This rubric was developed by Achieve, a nonprofit education organization leading the effort to help states make college and career readiness a priority for all students. One aspect of the organization's work is to conduct research and produce resources to advance implementation strategies for state academic standards and measure instructional material quality. The EQUIP rubric for science provides criteria by which to measure how well lessons and units are designed for the NGSS. In addition to 2311P appendices C and D, which assess bias and accessibility, the EQUIP rubric also calls out specific criteria that support increasing student voice, accessibility, inclusiveness, and differentiation, and ensure each student achieves the standards. Instructional materials were solicited via several avenues. Step 1 is to find instructional resources that claim to support the grade level standards. This is done by reviewing publisher attendance for national science conferences, directly contacting publishing companies, and collaborating with our local ESD and regional school districts. This research resulted in identifying 20 elementary science instructional resources for possible review. Step 2 is to investigate the level of NGSS design by external reviewers. Ed reports and NGSS design badge information and evidence, as well as meeting with publishers, helps us learn more about how instructional resources may be designed for the NGSS. The analysis of these results resulted in the unanimous vote by the committee to focus on 10 of the 20 elementary science instructional resources submitted. Lastly, the committee gained access to those 10 resources in print and digital to support their evaluation process. After an in-depth review of the 10 instructional resources based on policy and additional key criteria, 2 finalists were identified by the committee, which were Open SciEd and Imagine Learning's Twig Science. A virtual open house was hosted to provide opportunity for our community, staff, and regional partners to review the finalists and provide feedback. A district webpage was created with online resources and feedback forms for each product. Although this opportunity was communicated via the district homepage, Facebook, Instagram, a principal packet memo, during science professional learning sessions, and emails, we only received 8 submissions of feedback. Field testing ensures that the final recommendation will support and differentiate for all students in kindergarten through grade 5, ensuring access to rigorous, standards-aligned science for all. Committee members field tested the 2 finalists in their classrooms between March 3rd and April 4th. After implementation of a product, both teachers and students reflected on their experiences and completed feedback forms. The pictures on this slide are of a life skills grade 3 and grade 4 students engaged in the field test lessons. The final step in the adoption process was to engage in a comprehensive review of all the data collected to select a resource for referral. I'm pleased to share that the Elementary School Science Adoption Committee unanimously recommends Open SciEd. This is an open educational resource developed by a consortium of experts in the fields of science education, curriculum design, learning sciences, professional learning, and data analysis. All instructional materials are free to download, and print partnerships exist with Kendall Hunt Publishing and Carolina Biological. The elementary science materials are phenomena-based, 3-dimensional units that prioritize student coherence and equitable science sense-making. Throughout the units, students develop the ability to solve problems, ask and answer questions, and argue with evidence. Open SciEd was recommended because it is designed for students to achieve the next generation science standards. It's designed so that students are figuring out, not just learning about science. It achieves student-centered learning experiences. Students are positioned as the scientists and engineers, consistently engaging in collaborative learning experiences that provide multiple ways of knowing and doing to solve problems. It provides multiple layers of support for special populations during learning, including specified instructional and language development strategies with differentiated options for students with IEPs, struggling students, and our advanced and gifted students. It has rigorous and robust Tier 1 instruction. These units and lessons are designed to provide multiple pathways of student learning. The units offer built-in supports for teachers to highlight student assets and agency, and to address potential barriers to learning for their local student population. It provides robust support for teachers. Teachers are provided all the tools and resources they need to plan and implement student-centered learning experiences. And lastly, students in grades 6 through 8 engage in Open SciEd units of study. A kindergarten through 8th grade vertical alignment will support consistency in sense-making and discourse and increase growth and proficiency towards the standards. Approximately 900 students participated in field testing. This slide and the next highlights several of the student comments about Open SciEd submitted during field testing and reflection. Students appreciated the numerous hands-on, collaborative learning experiences. They enjoyed being challenged to figure something out and share their thinking and their ideas with their peers. Several of the comments also referenced how everyone had access to learning and that it was the students that got to drive the learning. The last comment on this slide sums up the sentiment generally shared by the students. They got to be scientists and engineers, figuring out the world around them, and they had a lot of fun doing it. The finalists were field tested in kindergarten through 5th grade classrooms, split classrooms, highly capable classrooms, an Achieve classroom, as well as a life skills classroom. 34 teachers participated in field testing. This slide and the next highlights several of the teacher comments submitted during the field testing and reflection. Teachers were struck by the high levels of student engagement in discourse during Open SciEd lessons. I'd now like to invite Stephen Harvey, committee member and STEM specialist from Mill Creek Elementary, to share a few statements about Open SciEd.
Good evening, board members, President Mitchell and Dr. Salzman. So my name is Stephen Harvey. I'm a STEM specialist at Mill Creek Elementary, and I had the pleasure of being part of the Science Adoption Committee this school year. Throughout the process, we looked at a number of different curriculum, and in the end, Open SciEd was by far the best written, the most rigorous and closely aligned to our next-gen science standards. And during field testing, it was also the only curriculum that I heard students repeatedly asking for more of it. They wanted to know the results of the investigations. We only had a short period of time to work with it, and so we were only able to do a few of the lessons. But they weren't bored at any point during the lessons or the format of them. And even though it's been over a month since we finished field testing, I still have students coming up to me asking me about the Open SciEd lessons and wanting to know if we could do more. So I hope that you will accept the recommendation for the science adoption and formally adopt Open SciEd as our new elementary school curriculum starting in 2025-26 school year and finishing in 26-27. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Points of reflection also included how much enjoyment teachers had in engaging their students in authentic science learning. I'd like to now invite Shannon Lacey, committee member and science instructional facilitator, to share a few statements about Open SciEd.
Hello, everyone. As the P12 Science Instructional Facilitator, it was an honor to work alongside and to participate in this committee. And I look forward to supporting all our incredible science elementary school teachers in implementing this new curriculum. If the board approves our recommendation, I am super excited for the idea that we will have a standard curriculum starting in kindergarten through 8th grade. Open SciEd helps students see themselves as scientists who figure things out. This curriculum prepares students with the skills and knowledge to make sense of the world and solve problems. It is exciting to imagine watching our youngest learners grow and develop their science skills over these 4 very formative years. As they transition from grade to grade, their science identity will flourish, preparing them for learning challenges they will have in high school and the problems that they will solve beyond. I look forward to supporting my elementary colleagues as they figure out and implement this new science curriculum.
Thank you, Shannon. If adopted, we are planning for a 2-year phase-in of the new units. Units 1 and 2 for each grade level would be implemented next year, and units 3 and 4 in year 2. I'm pleased to share that grade level teachers across the district will implement science units in the same order, which is a change from current elementary science practice. Although Open SciEd is an open educational resource, figuring out phenomena requires material, equipment, and manipulatives. To save money, we plan to utilize our district science resource center to build and produce the hands-on learning resources. 1 grade level's units worth of materials are approximately $350,000 from a distributor. For about the same amount or less, the Science Resource Center can build 2 units of hands-on science kits for all teachers at all grade levels. The cost estimates of teacher training and the physical instructional resources are within the budget allocated for this work. To support implementation of these new resources, teachers will participate in just-in-time learning. Training will build understanding of pedagogy and resource organization, create readiness to implement units, and create readiness to employ the high-leverage instructional strategies and routines to support differentiation in sense-making. Tonight in this first reading, I, along with some guest speakers, have explained the characteristics of the recommended instructional materials for elementary science. Based on our extensive review process, the committee believes this recommendation can support increasing science achievement, reduce achievement gaps, strengthen engagement, and support college and career readiness, and in doing so, request the adoption of Open SciEd after a second reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Yes?
Yeah, I saw that the prior adoption last was in 2004.
Yes.
And so just out of curiosity, what's the oldest book that we're currently teaching with that?
The oldest book was, the copyright for the oldest was in 2003.
Good to know. That's all.
Dr. Harvin, did you have something? Or?
Yeah, the age, I think, also.
I didn't know if we were going to go there.
Making sure our teachers have the up-to-date resources, and this is fantastic. I really appreciate the K through 8 alignment and the thoughtfulness in that. And it got me thinking about how also in this process, which we would do with other curriculum adoption, is the professional learning and the thinking through of not just getting the materials, but making sure our teachers feel supported in understanding how to use them and collaborating together. So I really appreciate that. Side question more for Ms. Tress on the reporting of, I was thinking about, and this doesn't need to be answered tonight, in thinking through, we do get state money for curriculum and textbooks, and I'm curious if we report back our professional learning under the curriculum line item versus our, again, doesn't need to be answered tonight, but it seems like such a critical component of success. And so just really thrilled with hearing the feedback and especially the field testing with the students. So well done.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I thought your presentation was wonderful. I also, I think you guys put in a ton of work vetting it and doing your due diligence. 900 students, that's incredible. Thank you. I just have one elementary level. You mentioned just-in-time learning. What does that mean?
So we're looking forward to creating opportunity for teachers to get trained in their first unit of implementation this summer, and then as they get ready to implement Unit 2 later in the school year, participating in training for that unit closer towards implementation.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I guess my question is, regardless of the age of the textbook, our science scores elementary, without exception, or maybe with rare exception, are one of our highest scores, I believe, on the SBA. And so, I know these changes, because this just shows how much the teachers have adapted through time, and even the switch from the SBA to the WCAS, just that they made that change, and our scores stayed high, I probably with very rare exception. So I'm curious, with this adoption, is it backfilling what the teachers have already had done, they've created on their own, and then it's I think some of the schools are 98, 90, in those high 90s of attainment for meeting standard. What are we trying to get with those students? Is it more breadth of what they know, or depth of what, because they already have this, but it is, or is it just filling in, again, what the teachers have been doing for the past 30 years?
Yeah, the teachers have been doing incredible work, and we've, as stated in the presentation, spent a lot of time since the adoption of the standards, building structures and resources to help teachers make decisions about how you elevate the current resources to be more in line with the standards. I'm very excited about the possibility of this resource supporting us getting even closer to that 100% achievement level. This particular material is really written for each student to have access to science and to build their skill in those science and engineering practices and cross-cutting concepts, so that they're not just learning the facts of science, but truly figuring out how to solve problems and figure out whatever is right in front of them in that moment.
Oh, that's great, and I appreciate your candor with the use of may. Have those standards.
Yes.
So this takes us on to the requested action. Is there any objection to adopting this item by general consent to be sent for second reading? Seeing none, this item is to be moved to second reading, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that takes us to section 16.02, or policy 2410, high school graduation requirements, proposed first reading. Dr. Fleckenstein, or Mr. Fleckenstein, I apologize.
Well, good evening, and in the spirit of keeping all things Everett Public Schools up to date, tonight I am presenting to you the proposed revisions to policy 2410, high school graduation requirements. These are minor updates, only revising the graduation years identified in the policy in anticipation of the next group of ninth graders beginning high school in the 25-26 school year. These revisions have previously been reviewed by the superintendent's senior staff prior to tonight's meeting. And as you can see here, this is just really housekeeping in preparation for next year.
Okay, any discussion or questions? This is pretty standard for us every year, so thank you so much for making those changes. Is there any objection of adopting this item by general consent to be sent for second reading? Seeing none, this item is moved to second reading. Thank you so much. And Dr. Saltzman, section 70.0, what do we have planned for upcoming meetings?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the board. Following our upcoming meetings, and before I begin, Ms. Lawrence, congratulations on sitting through your first meeting. Well done, well done. Okay. At the May 15th special meeting, directors will attend the superintendent's evaluation. At the May 15th special meeting, directors will attend the Cocoon House annual butterfly graduation. At our regular meeting on May 27th, the following will take place. We have a sustainability update. We have the second reading for the elementary science curriculum adoption, the second reading for policy 2410 high school graduation requirements, recognition for the core value champions for learning, the introduction of the new student representative, the April financial report, state auditor's report, annual comprehensive financial report 2023-24, superintendent's contract, WIAA membership renewal, the highly capable program district survey plan for 2024-2025, and library instruction material surplus. Thank you, Madam Chair and Board of Directors.
Oh, thank you. That takes us to section 18.0, executive or closed session. There is none for this meeting. So that takes us to adjournment. This concludes the March 25th, 2025 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. The meeting is now adjourned.